What makes a legend? Is it the roar of hooves on an endless plain, the flash of golden hair in the sunlight, or the defiance of a people who refuse to kneel to any tyrant? The Horse Lords of Rohan stand as one of the most iconic forces in Middle-earth. But their journey from wandering tribes to legendary defenders is a tale untold by many. Today, we tell you the story of their rise of the Horse Lords of the Rohirrim. The green plains of Rohan weren't always theirs, and their ancestors weren't always the heroic riders we know. To understand the Horse Lords, we must look back to a time before the name Rohan was spoken, when a hardy tribe of Northmen called the Eoad roamed the vales of Anduin. Long before the banners of Rohan flew, the Eoad were a proud and independent people, dwelling in the northern reaches of Middle-earth, where the great river Anduin wound its way through rugged valleys. Known for their unparalleled horsemanship, the Eoad were a nomadic tribe who lived close to the land, forging a bond with their horses so deep that it shaped their entire culture. Their steeds weren't mere animals, they were extensions of their spirit, partners in both survival and war. Led by a chieftain's line that valued strength, wisdom, and loyalty, the Eoad flourished in their homeland, yet their existence was not without peril. Orc raids from the Misty Mountains and threats from other Northman tribes kept them in a constant state of vigilance. They were warriors by necessity, and this resilience would serve them well in the trials to come. But their most fateful moment came not from within their borders, but from a cry for aid, a desperate plea from a kingdom far to the south, Gondor. To understand the bond between Rohan and Gondor, we must recognize that it wasn't born of convenience, but forged in the fires of loyalty and battle. During the reign of Gondor's steward Cirion, a dire threat loomed. The Balcoth, a fierce Easterling tribe, descended upon Gondor's northern territories in overwhelming numbers, joined by orcs spilling from the mountains. The proud kingdom faced annihilation. In this hour of desperation, Cirion sent riders north with an urgent message to the Eoad, calling for aid. At the time, the Eoad were led by a young but fearless chieftain named Eoad the Young. The riders who reached him spoke of Gondor's plight and its need for allies. Eoad, seeing this as both a chance to aid a noble kingdom and fulfill his people's destiny, mustered his riders without hesitation. It was a bold decision. The Eoad faced no direct threat from the Balcoth, but Eoad understood the power of alliances and the weight of honor. In an act that would become legend, he and his riders embarked on a daring journey south, covering a staggering distance in just days. A feat that proved the unmatched speed and endurance of their horses. When the Eoad arrived, Gondor's forces were on the brink of collapse. The Balgoth had overrun the northern provinces, and all seemed lost. But then, the thunder of hooves shattered the despair. Eoad's riders swept onto the battlefield like a tide, flanking the enemy and cutting through their ranks with unparalleled skill. The Balcoth were crushed, their armies scattered, and Gondor was saved. The victory at the Field of Celebrant marked a turning point not just for Gondor, but for the Eoad. Eoad's bravery and his riders' speed had cemented their place in history. For Cirion, this act of valor deserved more than gratitude. It demanded an enduring bond between their peoples. In the aftermath of the battle, Cirion sought to reward the Eoad in a way that honored their sacrifice and secured Gondor's future. He offered them the vast, fertile lands of Calanodon, Gondor's northern province, which had been ravaged by invaders and left desolate. This land would become their own kingdom, a place where the Eoad could thrive and grow. But this was not a mere transaction. It was a solemn pact. At Amon Anwar, beneath the shadow of the White Mountains, Eoad and Cirion swore an oath of eternal friendship and mutual defense. The oath of Eoad, spoken in their respective tongues, bound their peoples together, with Cirion promising his descendants would always come to the aid of Rohan, and Eoad pledging the same for Gondor. With this oath, the Eoad became something greater. They left their northern homes and migrated to Calanodon, establishing a new kingdom that would be known as Rohan, or the Riddermark. Their culture flourished, their settlements grew, and they built a new capital, Aldburg, in the Fold. Thus began the story of the Horse Lords of Rohan. No longer were they a nomadic tribe, they were now a kingdom with a duty to defend their land and uphold their oath to Gondor. They called themselves the Rohirrim, a name that would echo through the ages as both a warning to their enemies and a rallying cry for their allies. But the rise of Rohan was not without challenges. As the Eoad transformed into the Rohirrim, they faced threats from within and beyond their borders. Their story was only just beginning. As the Eoad settled into their new homeland of Calanartorn, a transformation began. The vast plains and fertile lands provided not only sustenance, but an opportunity for the Eoad to grow into something greater. Eoad the Young, having established the foundations of Rohan, ruled with wisdom and strength until his untimely death in battle. It was his son, Brego, who would take the reins and lead Rohan into its next chapter. Brego's reign was marked by stability and growth. Under his leadership, the once scattered settlements of the Eoad began to coalesce into a unified kingdom. But Brego's greatest achievement was the construction of Edoras, Rohan's new capital. Nestled against the foothills of the White Mountains, Edoras was more than a political center. It was a symbol of Rohan's newfound identity and strength. At the heart of Edoras stood the Golden Hall of Meduseld, a masterpiece of craftsmanship and a beacon of Rohan's prosperity. With its shining roof and intricate carvings, Meduseld became the pride of the Rohirrim. It was here that kings would hold council, feasts and celebrations, and where the songs of the horse lords would echo through the generations. However, Brego's legacy was not without sorrow. His son, Baldur, famously declared his intent to traverse the paths of the dead, a treacherous passage said to be cursed. Despite warnings, Baldur set out on his ill-fated journey and never returned. This tragedy cast a shadow over Brego's later years, as the loss of his son weighed heavily upon him. The next generations of Rohan's kings faced the dual challenge of maintaining unity within their borders and defending against external threats. Uldor the Old, Brego's son, ruled for an unprecedented 75 years, during which Rohan experienced a golden age of peace and prosperity. Under Aldor's leadership, the population grew, settlements expanded, and the Rohirrim established themselves as a force to be reckoned with. But peace never lasts forever in Middle-earth. After Uldor's reign, Rohan faced a series of internal and external conflicts. Succession disputes among the royal line occasionally destabilized the kingdom, as rival factions vied for power. The rugged geography of Rohan, with its open plains and isolated villages, made communication and unity challenging during times of crisis. One of Rohan's most persistent struggles was with the Dunlendings, a neighbouring people to the west. The Dunlendings, driven by ancient grudges and resentment over the gifting of Calanartorn to the Eoad, frequently raided Rohan's western borders. The Rohirrim, fiercely protective of their land and heritage, responded with equal fervour, leading to a cycle of violence that would persist for centuries. Amid these challenges, one of Rohan's most legendary figures emerged, Helm Hammerhand. Known for his immense strength and unyielding spirit, Helm became the 9th king of Rohan. His reign, however, was marked by turmoil. A major conflict arose when Freka, a Dunlending lord, sought to strengthen his influence over Rohan by proposing a marriage alliance with Helm's family. Helm, suspicious of Freka's intentions, refused and struck Freka down during a heated council meeting. This act ignited a full-scale conflict between the Rohirrim and the Dunlendings. As the conflict raged, Rohan faced one of its greatest trials, the long winter. This brutal season brought relentless cold and starvation, testing the kingdom's resilience. Helm and his people were forced to take refuge in the fortress of the Hornburg, later known as Helm's Deep. Isolated and besieged by enemies, they endured incredible hardships. Legend tells that Helm would venture out alone during the harshest nights, clad in white and striking fear into the hearts of his enemies. His strength and determination became the stuff of myth, but even Helm could not escape the toll of the long winter. He perished in the depths of the cold, leaving a legacy as one of Rohan's greatest kings. The death of Helm Hammerhand marked the end of an era, but it also signalled a new beginning for Rohan. Helm's nephew, Frealaf Hildason, took up the mantle of leadership. Freolaf's first act as king was to reclaim Edoras, which had fallen to the Dunlendings during the chaos of the Long Winter. With courage and determination, Freolaf led a campaign to drive out the invaders and restore Rohan's capital. Freolaf's victory was not only a restoration of Rohan's sovereignty, but also the beginning of its resurgence. Under his leadership, Rohan rebuilt its strength and renewed its alliance with Gondor, which had also suffered during the harsh winter. This period of rebuilding laid the groundwork for Rohan's survival in the turbulent years to come. Through the reigns of Brego, Aldor, Helm, and Freolaf, Rohan was shaped by both triumphs and trials. The construction of Edoras and Meduseld symbolized their unity, while the legends of Helm Hammerhand demonstrated their resilience. Yet, these struggles also revealed the vulnerabilities of a kingdom constantly caught between internal strife and external threats. As Rohan's history unfolded, one thing became clear. The spirit of the Rohirrim was unbreakable. The ascension of Freolaf Hildason, Helm Hammerhand's nephew, marked a turning point for Rohan. With Edoras overrun by Dunlendings during the chaos of the Long Winter, Freolaf's first act as king was to lead a campaign to reclaim the capital. His swift victory not only restored Rohan's sovereignty, but also revived hope for his people. Under Freolaf's rule, Rohan began a period of rebuilding. The kingdom's alliance with Gondor was renewed, symbolized by the arrival of Saruman in Isengard. Gondor granted Saruman stewardship of the tower, believing his wisdom and power would bolster the defense of the region. However, as history would later reveal, Saruman's presence would prove to be a double-edged sword for the Rohirrim. Freolaf's victory and the rebuilding of Edoras solidified Rohan's resurgence. His reign laid the foundation for a new era, ensuring that the spirit of the Horse Lords would endure for generations. Throughout its history, Rohan's position as a northern frontier kingdom made it a frequent target for enemies. While the Long Winter was one of their greatest trials, subsequent generations of Rohirrim faced numerous other threats. Among these, the wars with the Dunlendings were the most enduring. These skirmishes culminated in the War of the Rohirrim, a conflict that defined the strategic and symbolic importance of Helm's Deep. Helm's Deep, originally known as the Hornburg, became Rohan's strongest fortress. Its location in the White Mountains made it a bastion of last resort for the Rohirrim. After the Long Winter, the fortress was renamed in honor of Helm Hammerhand, whose defense of its walls during the siege had become legend. Over time, the Hornburg and its glittering caves became an enduring symbol of Rohan's resilience. It was here that the Rohirrim made their final stands against invaders, demonstrating not only their military might, but also their unbreakable unity as a people. Rohan's history culminates in the Third Age, when the kingdom played a pivotal role in the War of the Ring. At this time, Rohan was under the rule of King Theoden, whose mind and spirit were poisoned by the treacherous Grima Wormtongue. With the shadow of Saruman spreading from Isengard, Rohan stood on the brink of collapse. The turning point came with the arrival of Gandalf, who freed Theoden from Wormtongue's influence and inspired the king to lead his people once more. Theoden's transformation marked the revival of Rohan's fighting spirit, culminating in the muster of the Rohirrim and their legendary charge at the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. This battle remains one of the most iconic moments in Middle-earth's history. Theoden, astride his horse Snowmane, led his riders against the forces of Mordor with unparalleled bravery. Though Theoden fell in battle, his sacrifice ensured Rohan's survival and the ultimate victory of the Free Peoples. Theoden's death paved the way for his nephew, Eomer, to ascend the throne. As the new king of Rohan, Eomer continued the legacy of the Horse Lords, forging a stronger alliance with Gondor and helping to secure peace in Middle-earth. Beyond their military feats, the Rohirrim left an indelible mark on Middle-earth's culture. Their love for their horses was unmatched, and their bond with these noble creatures was a defining feature of their identity. The Rohirrim spoke a language descended from the tongues of the Northmen, rich with songs and stories that celebrated their history and values. The Golden Hall of Meduseld, with its carvings of galloping horses and golden roof, became a symbol of their heritage. The Rohirrim's traditions, rooted in honor, loyalty, and kinship, ensured that their legacy would endure even after the passing of their kingdom into history. The story of Rohan is one of resilience, honor, and unity. From their humble beginnings as the Eoad to their rise as the Horse Lords of Middle-earth, the Rohirrim showed the world what it meant to stand together against all odds. Their oaths to Gondor, their valor in battle, and their love for the open plains of the Riddermark are etched into the very fabric of Middle-earth's history. If you've enjoyed exploring the history of Rohan, let your voice be heard. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, share it with fellow adventurers, and subscribe to the channel for more journeys through the realms of Middle-earth. Together we'll continue unraveling the mysteries of Tolkien's world.